Greetings, Skull and welcome. Welcome to Vagrus, the Riven realms. It is a very anticipated RPG of mine. A friend of mine is making this, and I am highly excited about this title. As a fan of Dungeons and Dragons, as a fan of pen and paper, this definitely tickles my pickles. Tickles my pickles. Something like that, I think. Bear in mind, English is not my native language, so there might be grammatical errors here and there. But let's hop right into. It is still in development, as the disclaimer says, so there will be bug or missing contents or unfinished features. But let's have a look what the fuss is about. I am very curious. Let's start into Lost Pilgrims. Comitatus, an armed travel company, is usually carried cargo or passengers across the wastelands of the continent. Can get involved in a variety of jobs, ranging from trading on mercenary work. Vagrus, an adventurer, a vagabond, a captain, the leader of a comitatus. So this is the thing, the idea behind it. We're a Vagrus, leading
the River Realms, they call it.
a traveling
What a
party.
fine poetic name for something as rotten and twisted as our land has become. And it was not always so. Long ago, the old empire, the noblest and most enduring society created by humankind, spanned almost the entire continent of Zerine, the cradle of man. But after several millennia of
Feels a little
progress
bit Egyptian,
and incomparable achievements,
with a touch of
inevitably,
Roman.
the empire began to fall into stagnation and decadence. Desperately holding on to their privileges and resisting change while trying to avert the collapse of the realm, the emperor and his theocracy took to measures that were worthy of true despots in cruelty.
Ooh, what they done?
Subjugating weaker realms, enslaving whole nations, strip mining foreign resources,
There we go, Romans.
pressing imperial citizens, war on several fronts, genocide. Eventually, the gods could no longer tolerate such horrors wrought in their name. Foretold by an abundance of divine omens, they descended upon the empire to right its wrongs. Thus, in a
Gods struck
chain
down?
of dreadful events that became known as the Calamity, they annihilated the empire in a matter of days.
Shit. The Calamity, okay.
The gods then finally saw what they had done in their anger and confusion. It is said that so much grief and shame filled them that they were broken and they left this reality, never to return.
Okay, so the gods are gone
The continent and
before they
its
destroyed the
inhabitants
whole
seemed
place.
dead. But at length, survivors began to crawl out of their hiding holes and faced a land that no longer welcomed them. Arcane anomalies, the fallout of the Calamity, now riddled the continent, and people realized that they had to share their new home with changed and twisted creatures.
Ew!
Terrible beings entered through the cracks in the tapestry of reality and rose to rule over the natives. In time, these new powers rebuilt the fallen empire in their own image, and the River Realms, now godless and vengeful, reincarnated from the ashes.
I must say the narrator is doing
The
a phenomenal
inhabitants of the
job.
land, such as I, now eke out a living under the crushing rule of the new empire. The continent itself constantly resists our every attempt at building a cozy home for ourselves. As travel is dangerous, many ventures specialize in transferring cargo and passengers over bleak and deadly leagues of land. Others try to take everything of value from said travelers, or attempt to find buried treasures among the ruins of the old empire.
Interesting
The leaders
creature.
of the endeavors are, some say, the bravest men and women of the River Realms. Such a leader is called a Vagrus.
There we go. Vagrus. That's exactly, I'm guessing, what the game is about. Vagrus, the Riven realm. So we're playing an expedition leader with a group behind him in the so-called Riven realms. So let's hop right into and see what the fuss is bad. Nothing beside remains around the decay of the colossal wreck. Boundless and bare, the lone level sands stretch far away. From Ozymandias by Percy Bysshe Shelley, 1818. I probably butchered that name. I'm very sorry. Hello there.
Yes. A Vagrus. What a profession. Daring and savvy, always watching the horizon, always looking for an opportunity, and of course, for what is best for his comitatus, eh? And you are a Vagrus too, are you not? Many
Maybe.
of your kind have I seen in my long life as a vagabond. Care to listen to a story about your exquisite occupation, good master? It is a tale of woe and terror, but it is also a tale that is true, as I have seen it with mine own eyes.
I must say the narrator is phenomenal. So tell us your tale, old man. At least, help me kill the time.
Wise you are, good master. My tale is of a Vagrus, such as yourself, but one whose fate was cursed and wrought with ill fortune. It all happened a long time ago. 10 years, maybe more. I was but a passenger, traveling rough roads and forgotten ways with this comitatus, south along the feet of the great mountains of the west.
You're here. So who's part of this?
This comitatus I speak of had fallen under hard times. Perhaps it was due to imperial harassment or unfortunate decisions, or simply bad luck. Hierophants, saint of roads, does not always smile on us mere mortals. But however it came to pass, their coin was drying up, and their opportunities seemed few and far between.
Okay.
One of the last chances their Vagrus saw was to travel to the remote town of Scrapheap and spend their remaining funds to stock up on cheap scrap metal. This metal could be sold for great profit over in the east and south. It wasn't a bad plan, truly, but it was not without risks either.
Makes sense. So apparently we're playing a group now that is heading to Scrapheap to buy some scraps. Welcome to the Pilgrims of Wasteland, a standalone story of the Vagrus Riven. It serves an introduction to the setting and also a tutorial of the game. It behooves you read the tutorial text and following the instructions, gain a better understanding of how the game works. The icon can be clicked in the tutorial window to show what section is revealed by a pointer. Although Vagrus is an open world game, due to Pilgrims of the Wasteland being the tutorial, it progresses along a narrow guided path, being an open up later after the core mechanics have been introduced. Okay. On the Kabine map, your comitatus always occupies a node and moves on these paths and movement points. Okay, yeah, makes sense, makes sense. Move to Scrapheap. Move. MP costs. Let's move up there. Ooh. Events happening while you're traveling. Okay. I like this already. As I said, I'm a huge fan of Dungeons & Dragons and pen and paper adventures. So this is exactly what I'm looking for. Exactly what I'm looking for. Giving me events and let me choose all kinds of different answers and then hit me with the, well, consequences, positive or negative, and or even have a long-term consequence and come later back to hit you from behind, positively or negatively. Having got ahead from the column with a handful of scouts, you watch from afar as the comitatus slowly trudges along broken terrain, making its way south to ponderless among dormant gazers. All around, the hills smolder lazy and perpetual twilight. Are you alright? Javic's voice resonates with sympathy, and he appears next to you in the bridge. You nod, slowly but not look at him, your gaze lost at a distance where ash cloaks the horizon and the towering mountains in the south and west. You turn to your combs and nod his supportive smile. You and Javik have been traveling the realms together for years now. There's no person in the world you trust more than him, except perhaps, yourself. I know you feel that your hands are tied, but like I said before, might be the right choice by leading us here. Time will tell, but I still have my doubts. It's a long shot, and you know it. There wasn't much of a choice, either this or returning my trading license and hanging myself. It has to work. We cannot fail, not like this. Thank you. But the last thing I'd need right now is a clumsy pep talk, even if it's well meant. Well, I would go for the neutral-ish answer here. Time will tell. Javik nods. True, but it's better than just giving up. The crew agrees too. That counts for something, no? It does, yes. Good to know that they still have faith in me as their Vagrus. Oh, they do have faith in you still, Javik says. It should not come as a surprise since you have known and traveled with most of them for years and years. Some founding members of the Comitados you trust with your life, but you have heard stories before about Vagri, who have been abandoned for less. Times being what they are, Javik trails off. With Imperials cracking down on his independent more heavily than before, business is tough. Everyone knows, and appreciate your efforts to keep us floating. Our plan ought to give us another chance. The plan is to travel company introduced weeks ago, but with each step towards the Western Mountains, more and more of them started to have doubts, such as of the road perhaps. The plan involves desperate attempts at squeezing a low selling price for metal bits out of all contacts of your town and scrap heap. Stocking up on said metal by spending your remaining coin and bringing cargo down south to the Molten Tongue and Devon via Avernum and Ash. This is a shortage of metal in Devon. You know, several buyers, and you could get a pretty good price if you can only make it there before many of others do the same. Such contacts are the boon of the long decades spent on the road, but even if Narbo, that villain, gave you an agreeable price in scrap heap, the road is not without perils. Sneaking through the gap between the dead forest and the Molten Tongue is inviting disaster, so it is not a path of many Vagri would risk. And of course, if it fails, you are out of alternatives. Do you think Narbo will help us out? The old scavenger was never famous for its goodwill, Javik wonders. When texts are highlighted, you get codex entries. I see. So if I click on that, it gives me a codex entry and a description about that area. I will not bore you about that. If you want to, you can pause here and have a quick look on the description on the Death Forest, for example. Tanks region. Holy moly, there's a huge encyclopedia behind it. I love it. I love it. By the way, talking about places, there is a place named after me. What I will not tell you what it will do. Just play it and find out. It's called Core Maker's Blessing. Interesting place, what I've heard so far. So one can only hope. I haven't seen him in years, but we've always did good business. That said, you're not sure he would remember you or if you're still alive. Let's go with the first answer. One can only hope that he didn't forget us. I'm sure just sleaze bastard as Narbo would remember all this business you've done, Vagrus. Javik rubs his chin absent-mindedly. You've seen this expression too often and realize he's using this sorcerer's talent to read your mind. Taking a peek. Apologies! Javik rubs his eyes quickly and looks away. You know how it is, it comes to me naturally that sometimes I don't notice I'm doing it. The thoughts were loud, Vagrus. I've actually blocked them, you see? After joining your Comitados 6 years ago, Javik proved to be an invaluable asset. Not only does he sense moods and thoughts around him, but he's also able to subtly manipulate others when he focuses his inner energies. It comes in handy when doing business. Then there is his other perks. A few times you saw him shatter the minds of men and beasts who tried to kill him. Not a pretty sign, but a very effective deterrence. Yet, because he's not a trained sorcerer, at least not in the traditional sense, his abilities are sometimes difficult to control. You've become accustomed in his impromptu scans, while others find it less bearable to be around him. For this reason, He's kept his abilities a secret for many years overall, but he can't keep a secret such as this for a long, close-knit community of the comitatus, especially if you not keep bursting minds and knowing things you shouldn't. Ooh, but even so, he's not propped your mind in years, certainly not on purpose, but rather by accident. Perhaps he's less in control now, which suggests he's more on edge about this whole trip. Then he lets on. Apology accepted. You managed a faint smile. Let us return to the others and push on. There's still days travel ahead of us. Both of you head back west to the column. Go back to the comitatus.
As we were coming up to the gates of Scrap Heap, this trash pile town of cutthroats and scavengers, we could see the vast mountain ranges of shattered Bivanda Thar looming ominously over the horizon, half shrouded in the gaseous vapors belched forth by the volcanoes in the far west. My companions prepared to do their business in town as fast as they could, not wishing to tarry in this notorious place.
Totally understandable. Totally understandable. So that the narrator is half of this little thing. Apparently I forgot to turn off my alert there. Skull everybody for watching. Let's get to Scrap Heap. Ooh, Scrap Heap! At the foot of the ever-fuming mountains of ancient Dwarven Kingdom lies Scrap Heap, the town of scavengers. Debris and junk. Looks like... reminds me a little bit of Mad Max for some reason. Although not up to the technology by having cars and whatnot, but like Mad Max story in medieval fantasy way. Which is trigger the homes of the description inhabitants, ash lingers everywhere, and the sun almost absent because of the twilight skies. Deals are struck day and night, and okay. Track down Narbo. Can he be convinced to help us? So we're looking out for Narbo in the settlement. Oh, there we go. Look at this. This is exactly what I'm looking for. I would love to play more adventures like this. Point and click a little bit with a little bit of fighting, strategical combat, and a lot of story. I mean, you have to have a heart for storytelling in that way. That you are reading through it like the good old RPGs. But you will probably not like it if you're expecting to have everything voiced or have everything laid out to you and like feeding you from the hand. This is like you have to think, you have to read, you have to take decisions, and that's what the game is about. And I'm not sure we're gonna see some combat in this episode, but we'll see. So you make your way through the wave stash and through his watering hole, tucked away in a small street just beneath the imposed tower of Heap King, but not quite under the immense shadow. Few, frequent and established, which makes perfect for Nobber and his little operation of honest merchants. Apparently, the knave is not only alive, but he's done well for himself for the past decade or so. Taking knowledge Javik, you'll leave the comitatus in the care of Titus, your quartermaster, while you're gone negotiating. Ash is fitting from the black sky as you cross the street and nod to the bouncer of the race stash. Give him your Sodom squarely. Rules are rules, at least as long as they can enforce it. Yet they have the courtesy of allowing you to keep your dagger. And of course, they have no idea what Javik is capable of should you come to the scuffle. Not that you expect such a thing, but with Narbo, one never knows. Though, you have told your crew that he and you go way back. The entrepreneur is a capricious and manipulative man whom you did not part in the best terms. Does he remember that? Surely. Could he persuade to take your proposal? Who knows? Your eyes slowly adjust to the dimness of the tavern interior. Only a few candles and a lamp at the bar illuminate the common room. Shadowy faces turn towards you and observe you through the smoke. The bartender, a thick-set man in a dirty tunic, is chewing tobacco. Above the bar hangs a skeleton of a large heap lizard. I'm guessing this is this thing here. On display. Narbo is sitting at a table in the back. I'm guessing that's him over there. with his bodyguard half in the darkness at the wall behind him. Sit down at one of the vacant tables, walk over to the bar. Let's go to the bar. The bartender stifles and nods his greeting. Well, what can I do for you? The way he grabs the earthenware mugs suggests that it would probably best to order something. You glance at Javik briefly, paying for 2 rounds of local mushroom brew called Ash Tongue. It is somewhat less loathsome than you imagined, leaning over your drink and quietly tell the barman that you are here to see Narbo. Oh, do you know? He's doing calculation, and he don't like to be bothered. He's doing calculation. He indicates Narbo at the corner table with a nod. The entrepreneur is indeed busy poring over a sack of papers and fiddling with calculations. Let's wait until he finishes papers and let's at least finish our beer. You chatted with the bartender while sipping your beer. Most of it is boring small talk, but when the conversation turns into a discussion of local prices, you notice Javik's stern expression and small hand gestures he makes. This is a signal you two have been using for a long time, indicated that he's gleaned something from the man's surface thoughts. 1 minute later, the bartender goes to the back and checks the kitchen. Javik leans closer. Apparently, there's a supplier of meats and mushrooms that is surplus in his hands he wants to get rid of quickly. You can't help but smile and nod. This could save you quite a lot of coin. Also, your friend Narber seems to be having some trouble with a package. In his mind, it is a constant frustration in connecting to the Heap King. You nod to Javik and notice how the sleazy merchant has stopped fiddling with the calculus and I was looking up at some papers listlessly. It is time. Let's walk over to Narbo. Ooh, look at his grim face up here. The entrepreneur looks up and stacks papers in front of him, rubs his eyes. Narbo is a corpulent man with a bushy dark beard and a few missing teeth. Part of his face is covered in scars similar to those left by old birds. That couple of the withered, mutated left arm that hangs simply at his side, it is clear indication of the taint. The merchant wears a leather jerkin studded with small bronze bone coins, a sign of wealth and boldness. His bodyguard is a lithe man with tribal tattoos and an outfit made of leather, moves his hand calmly to a spear that leans against the wall. Narber's mouth falls open as his sparks of recognition flares up, and his eyes, no wonder, it has been 10 years. The fuck, mate? He blinks. I thought you croaked people. Narbo waves his good hand around and looks at his bodyguard. Told tales of your demise. The man finishes his sentence for him that the merchant nods vehemently. That business with Kermik. Outpost and the storm. Narbo adds. I have no clue what he's talking about. You tell him that you are indeed the Kernek, and when the terrible arcane storm struck, you described the horrors of that night briefly. Yet how many of your original commentators died there. Close friends, old traveling companions, but you walked away unscathed. This was years ago. Sheesh, that fucker Irrevantus looked after you something fierce, eh? Narbu chuckles hurriedly. But I'm sure you haven't come to reminisce you bad good old times, eh? The predatory smile makes you cautious, even though he invites you to sit down with a casual wave of his meaty hand. Apologize to him for the unfortunate way you parted 10 years. Get down to business right away. You have no time to spare. Remind him that you do not like threats, especially not insinuated ones. Let's try the friendly approach. Let's try to apologize. Far as I can tell, you never did anything against me, eh? Naru shrugs with a wry smile. Okay, let's give him more of an Irish thing. Of course, you couldn't send someone to, oneness. The bodyguard finished the sentence. Back when Narbo and you parted ways, a venom collegium was hot on your trails. They got offended by how you two outplayed them by smuggling in a shipment of exotic spices without their knowledge and selling it to local nobleman's merchant's house. Look at Narbo and tell him there was no way of warning him or even knowing where he was after the chaos was unleashed followed the heist in Avernum. You had to get your crew out there, so you did. The merchant is filling throughout with a stack of papers while listening to you. Well, I appreciate you coming. Clean even the sorry business was so many years ago, he says after a long pause. The bodyguard becomes visibly less tense. But something tells me that you ain't here for all came for still. So, what is it? You breathe in. Time out the outline of your proposition. Explain, Arbro, how you want to give him a discount on the shipment of metal scraps, which you then would smuggle into Devine. Through contacts you have in the city underworld, the profit of the shipment would be quite exquisite. You do not name your contact, but divulge enough of her that the plan looks solid. Buyers, you say, are lining up, expecting the shipment soon. Narbo sits in silence, eyes fixed on the table, as if listening to some noise from afar. He does not cut out of any time during your proposition. At length, after you are done, he looks up and gives you a weak smile. That sounds like you've been thinking a long time about it, he says as he shifts in his chair. And that's a great plan. Expect for the part where I give you a discount for your asking. And not much else. And I don't do that, mate. That would make me an almoner, the bodyguard adds discreetly. That would. Narble looks up to him. When the man nods, he returns back to you. Aye, an almoner. See, I'm new almoner. You know you gotta do better than that. What you got for me? So some choices have dependencies, meaning that there's a certain success when you pick them. So we could tell him that we'll be in debt and we'll make a tidy profit as it is, but you will owe him a favor. Remind him that you two used to a great team and his could rekindle in a partnership. Very low successive chance. What is that symbol? Charismatic +6. Persuasion +15. Oh, okay, that's our traits that we have. Reveal that in your bad spot. Oh, we could use the information that we got and tell him that we might help him with his problem that he has right now if he helps us. Quality and Narbo's secret. Good that we sit down at the bar and had a look at this. So let's tell him about the exchange. Narbo jaws drops when you insinuate that you know about his little problem. Fuck me, mate. You're better connecting than I thought. Or do you have something up your sleeve? The merchant says as he eyes Javik suspiciously. For a while he's quiet. Then he looks up and narrows his eyes. Tell you what, I think we can help each other. You headed to Devon by way of Avernum, eh? When you nod, Darble leans closer and signals his bodyguard. The man with the dreadlocks steps closer and carefully produces a small packet from beneath his leather jerkin. Oh, okay. Then puts it into the merchant palm. This here little fella. It's mighty important to me. See, if you take this out of the city and deliver it to my associate in Avernum or Riven, you get your discount scrap for me. The merchant offers you a package. Javik draws in a brief, but before he could speak, Narbo interrupts him. Before the pretty boy asks, no, I won't tell you what's in it. Don't even think about opening the package. What he can say is, it ain't dangerous to yourself. But, you might want to keep it hidden from the demolition of the good old crap heap. You take the package. The way Narbo glares at you makes it clear that you have no other choice. This might be the opportunity you had hoped for. Package is small enough to fit in your palm. Feels very light. It is wrapped in fine leather. You pocket it after briefly observation. You'll be looking for an old man named Scorner in Avernum. He ain't to be trifled with either. Just tell him I'd sent ya, and I'll be fine. Yeah, can find him on his man in Lavinus Waterhole most of the time. Give this little fella to him, and to him only. Understand? After you assure him you do, Narbo instructs you to give him an hour, then looks for people at the market and simply introduce yourself. They will know that what price they should give you on metal scraps by then. He motions his arm. You and Javik stand up and make it ready to leave. Bravura! We'll take you to back exit. We don't want to give people the idea they can come here to beg for almonds now, do we? Or anyone could connect and run to the militia, for that matter. Well, you got what you came for, so you leave the Wraith stash through the back entrance and head back to the commentators. Ooh. Oof. I like this. I like this. Your journal located at the bottom left is now active. It remains and follows the stories on the task. Okay, let's click on the journal. As quest tasks, search filters, objectives, qualities, objectives is on reads, and passengers that we have along us. Okay. So we have the package and the shipment. So we need to buy 24 scrap metal, have at least 800 supplies, and the awnings equipment. I see, I see. Well, how the stories unfolds on, and what happens with that package, and what will happen if we'll get to the gates. Will we be stopped by the guards? And no, we're not. That is time for another story time. If you liked it, please click that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments if we should continue this journey. And if you do so, we will very likely come back and see how this story unfolds and press onwards with our commentators. This was Cormaker TV presenting you Vagrus, the Riven Realms. Please check it out. Links are in the description down below to the game if you like it. And thank you for joining us. Bye bye.